So let me warmly welcome you all. This is now the first panel discussion of our conference. Today we are going to devote this 1 hour to the love and hate relationship of AI and translation, as you will see. We've heard in quite a lot of very interesting and thought-provoking presentations and workshops also, that this is a topic worth talking about, and this is changing from year to year because our conferences earlier were with a similar profile but still slightly different, and AI is becoming more and more dominant in our discussions, and that's exactly the reason why we invited now this distinguished panel today. As you see and as you may have seen in our program, now we have representatives of the language service providers and also the DGT, and we also have a number of trainers, researchers from our partner institutions. Let me introduce them briefly. You can see the names in the program. We have Christian Király, who is one of the senior leaders of one of the largest language service providers in Hungary, and we also have Anna Martin, who is representing the Directorate General for Translation at the European Commission. We are really honored to have you here. It's very kind of you that you accepted our invitation. And we also have our colleagues from the partner universities. From the University of Applied Sciences in Zurich, Mattia Tura is representing the whole, hopefully all the colleagues and all the researchers. You probably know Pablo and Patricia already, at least those of you who attended the workshop in the other room earlier. They come from Madrid, as you know, from Universitat Politécnica, so Pablo Caella and Patricia Martin Chozas, if I pronounce your name right. Okay. And last but not least, we also have Edina Robin, one of our dearest colleagues from ELTE, from the University of ELTE, who is there now, the director of the Institute of Language Mediation. So thank you once again for accepting our invitation. It is very nice to have you here. As you see now, we are going to talk a bit about the impact of AI on our profession and also the challenges it may poses for our profession later on, and also maybe the opportunities that it offers for us trainers and also for the language industry. So first of all, let me ask the two of you, who are mostly on the other side, so on the side of language service providers, to what extent and in what way do you use AI-driven tools in your daily practices? I guess, Christian, you probably have, machine translation, obviously, and I suppose post-editing is part of your daily practice. But in what way do you incorporate AI tools? Do you also have this Swiss Army knife method that we've heard about, or any other tools that you may use? Please use the mic on the table.
Thank you very much. Is it on? Should I?
It's fine.
No?
Maybe, yeah.
I am believing.
I will give you mine. Yeah. In the meantime, I give you mine. I take that one.
Oh, thank you very much. That works really well. Okay, so just to give a bit of a context, we are a language company that works with end clients, and we also work with multinational language service providers, so basically the big players in the language industry with the capital I. And basically what we have seen presented by Martin from Edimart, that's the craft brewery approach, if you want to go into beer production. And what we deal with from our big LSP partners is the industrial beer production type of the technology that is used today. And most of the time we get the experience that Levente has, that people try to use AI technology and we end up with nothing else but machine translation again. But since there is a great AI hype, people are trying to get discounts on the work that we perform. So basically there is no productivity benefit when they introduce AI into the workflows, not as it happened with MT. Because of course there was resistance to MT, but the linguists could see that they indeed can work faster if they learn how to do post-editing properly. Right now, when we have this industrial scale AI use, we don't really see any productivity increase, but of course prices are going lower. And I don't know if you have a different experience with this.
I think we are a little bit in a bubble at DGT. Firstly, because there are very clear constraints to us when it comes to the use of AI. One of them is being the thing that Balázs also mentioned, which is data security, confidentiality. Then we also have the problem of bias and hallucination in the case of third-party models. And obviously, this is rather unique, probably, what DGT does, which is translating mostly from English into at least 23 other languages, sometimes into more as well. And what we have seen that with low resource languages, third-party models are not so useful. So what we have in our daily work right now, if you ask me in 2 years, then probably my answer will be different. But right now what we have is a neural machine translation, which is machine translation enhanced by AI. This is the AI, the model that runs behind that is an in-house development. So it means that we don't have to hand out our data to third parties. And at the same time, in parallel, there's huge effort and resources are put into developing a European large language model, because that would be a model that where everything stays in Europe. We don't have to give away our sensitive data to anyone, and then that model would be trained by Europe on more reliable and more relevant training data. But for our daily work as a translator, what we have is mostly this neural machine translation engine that basically you can also access from outside. It is called eTranslate, and it is quite a big help in terms of speed. But we needed to learn how to use it, which was like a long process as well. And then we have it is called forced terminology, which means that we can force a term base on the neural machine translation engine, because we know that they are notoriously bad with terminology that we use more or less as well. Then we have a tool which is called semantic similarity. It helps us to organize our work, to see which documents are similar to each other, which are about the same topic, but not on the level of segments, not of the level of puzzle matches, but the topic in general. And there are a lot of things in the pipeline that we are testing, that we are looking at how to use AI, but there's a huge constraint, that is data security and confidentiality. And as to the costs, we are probably on one hand in a better situation than you. We don't know the price. I don't know the price. I'm a translator and the language technology coordinator, so I don't know the price. But on the other hand, we have the time constraint, and time is not only money. And of course, we use taxpayers' money, so we have to use that the most efficiently that we can. So we need to use technology and all the things that technology can reasonably offer to us.
Okay, so I guess you are not so cost conscious. We understand that. The same applies for universities, I suppose. We sometimes would like to be more cost conscious, but we cannot really. We hope that value is enough and cost is not that important. But for you, for translation offices, I guess that's probably the highest priority. So in this respect, do you see the use of AI tools rather as something positive, as something beneficial? You mentioned that most of your clients would like to get a discount, so in this respect, it's probably not a great plus. But can it be beneficial in any way? And then what is the greatest threat that you see now in the use of AI technologies?
Well, if I can go back to the presentation of Márton, he was driving at something that I think could really help the industry move forward and have a next leap like we had with translation memories and we had with MT. Because I do believe that there is potential in using large language models if we can really go past just the machine translation part. And if we can have that, then there will be productivity gains. And I think that if it makes it easier for linguists to do the translation or to generate a better quality translation or be more creative, I don't know. I think that they will like it and they will adopt it. But we are not there yet. So technology has to make the next big step. Because right now I feel that we are somewhat stuck in a hype cycle, and technology providers sold the idea to the end clients, to the big corporations, that we have arrived in a new age when costs can be cut, but like half price. But there is nothing there to support it. And basically linguists, freelancers who are working day by day with translations, they have reached a point where they simply won't discount their prices anymore because they won't be able to afford their living costs, basically. And I think that this feedback has started going through the industry and maybe setting people at the top, so to say, right about the realities that we have to make more progress. Technology companies have to make additional progress in order to really get that productivity gain that they are talking about now. And I think that the greatest danger we face at the moment is that this period stretches for too long, that a lot of people will be forced out of the linguistic professions, basically, because prices will keep going down, quality will keep going down, and when the end clients don't really understand what they are missing, this won't be a problem for them, and before the readjustment occurs, I fear that a lot of people will take up new professions or simply leave the field, and I think that's the greatest danger at the moment.
Okay, I tend to agree with you that we need a next large step, and basically all the presentations that we've had pointed in this direction. The question is, who is supposed to accelerate this news? Is it the engineers or rather the linguists or the researchers who are supposed to bring about this change? And I hope that the role of researchers is still significant in this equation. So now let me ask my colleagues, so the researchers side. Large language models, well, let's think highly of ourselves, are based on the research results of linguists. Not entirely, but partly, yes. Can you now build on AI technology and large language models in your research? So I know that you are all involved in AI-related or LLM-related research. Could you please tell us about a few research results that you've reached with the help of AI or with the help of LLMs and various fields of application where it might come in handy?
Okay. That's a difficult question. We are trying to research on these language models, but I'm gonna tell you one anecdote we had this year. We started a new research project, and we asked for GPUs to infrastructure to have a large language model, to fine-tune large language models, and so on. So we asked for this infrastructure, and by the time we got this infrastructure, we couldn't use it anymore because the models grew up so much that we couldn't, so the infrastructure was very, very small that we couldn't use it. Mm-hmm. So that's the role of researchers right now in the public university, okay? So
Trying to keep pace.
Yes, so we need this to stop a bit. I was telling one student now, we don't really know, so we need time to catch up because we don't really know how these models work. I mean, we know that, so Pablo was mentioning how this model work actually, but we know from the past, but the current models nowadays are like a black box and very difficult so it's very difficult to touch the guts of this technology, and that we don't really know how to evaluate their output, for instance, and we don't really know how to fine-tune them, how to make improvements on top of the model. So, because this kind of technology is experiencing a rapid development right now. So we really need to have some time to understand it. And, well, maybe you want to add something?
Thank you, Patricia. For my point of view is that, of course, as Patricia mentioned, large language models are growing up so fast. But this is a business model. So, and the big companies, the very big ones, that they are following their own path, and this is cool. But for us as researchers, we want to perform better. We don't need something so big for performing tasks that are not so difficult to do. So now the research part is trying to find usable models, small models that can be capable of doing such as the things that these kind of large language models can do, but in a short way. So that you can compute in machines that are maybe available for instance, for the infrastructure of public universities, or for small companies, or for medium companies. Okay, so that's why I also mentioned Chava says about the RAG systems, or we try to explore techniques that could perform better these language models without having the huge infrastructure that is impossible to replicate. Just the Roberta model that was published in 2021, or I don't remember, Roberta, 2019, I don't remember, was trained by Facebook with 1,024 GPUs at that moment. That's not possible to replicate in any industry, in any company, or even all the computational network that we have in Europe, that we can do a computational replication of GPUs and of that. So we are far off of that. Okay, they have their own research task and they have their own business, and they don't have any peer review process. They don't have to publish anything. They just publish in archive, and okay, this is my paper. You can do whatever you want. Even they have small errors in the text, but they don't want to wait 1 year just to have this paper published or not. This is the business, and this is okay. But for us, it's okay. It's to have an assistant or something like that. It's interesting. But for researchers, we have to do better things adapted for the solutions. And that's the point. For instance, as I was mentioning earlier, that RAG systems in theory works, but in practice not. You are now that I am reviewer of different conferences, reviewer in journals. Each one comes with a different solution of RAG, of a new improvement of a new RAG, enhanced RAG, graph RAG, agentic RAG, whatever RAG you can mention. You have thousands of RAG systems, because companies are trying to publish, or trying to focus on how to get these small language models, or language models with less billion parameters, to put in just 4 or 5 GPUs that are cool, and with a RAG system can perform better, and you don't need OpenAI anymore. Okay, but the results are still less important than the good ChatGPTs and so. But the idea is that you can do it locally, and you can train your data without having any influential from the point of view of other companies. So this is my.
So we could say that we have the brain power, but we lack the resources.
Yes.
Let's believe in this. Okay, but we can still be on the user side. And now let me ask Mattia. I hope you can hear me now. Please tell us about the project, a very interesting project, as I know, where you tried to make use of AI-driven technologies.
Yes, exactly. I guess coming from an institute that is very much in the linguistic sphere or in the computer science sphere, we don't have the luxury of just buying GPUs and try to create the next sexy model for our students. So, but I guess we still have, or for us it's still very much of interest to see how machine translation and AI forms or changes the way we communicate in the real life, in the real sort of domain. For example, we did a survey in Swiss hospitals about the usage of machine translation, and like some hospitals were very sort of good. They had guidelines, they had ideas of how to implement or when to use machine translation, like having in mind also privacy and other things. But there's many hospitals that just don't have any guidelines of how to use machine translation. So usually it's just an individual nurse deciding to use machine translation, or even the patient that maybe doesn't speak the local language, to sometimes, handle very delicate situations. Like, I don't know, if your child is born in the middle of the night and there's no translator available in any case, all you have then maybe is a device or a phone. And so we're interested in the impact that machine translation has on direct communications when there's just no other way right now of using them.
Okay, and did you involve students in this project?
Yes, of course, we try, we use students with different language capabilities within our studies. Also, there's many students also that have sort of refugee background or immigration background that have personal stories, of course, they're very interesting to us. And we also then try to incorporate what we find out within these projects in our teaching of our students and the usage of machine translation in that regard, yes.
Mm-hmm. So yes, indeed, I think we can conclude that students need to be trained in machine translation in some way. The question is in what way we can do that. And now let me ask you, Elina, is it, I guess it is incorporated in your curriculum, to how to apply machine translation, and then also the basics of post-editing, I suppose. But how can you incorporate it? How can you teach students the basics of translation, but also the rules of responsible AI use?
So if we talk about the 2-year master's course that we have, we start off with teaching translation skills without any technology involved. And we discuss this with the students. So we tell them that the purpose is to learn about translation, because we talk about how you need critical thinking, and you need critical thinking when using AI-based technology. And if you don't teach them how to think about translation, how they're going to have critical thinking about translation if they don't know what translation is. So first of all, we want to teach them about translation. And then we slowly introduce technology from the second semester onwards. But in the first year of their masters, we ask them not to use any AI, any translation memory. Translation memory comes in the second semester. And then from the second year, so third and fourth semester, these tools, including translation memory, MemoQ, MT, and AI, comes in for the technical translation, so legal, and so they work with actual texts, and their teachers encourage them to try and experiment with these different tools. Sometimes they even ask them not to use the tools, but then specifically ask them. And of course, we encourage the teachers to use the tools themselves. This is another issue, sometimes how open teachers are for innovation, but thankfully we have cooperating students and cooperating teachers as well. And so by the time they get to their thesis, we do not require them to do translation from scratch. So they are allowed to use all the tools that they've been taught, including AI, including machine translation, translation memory, but they are also allowed to do that translation only in Word. We don't encourage that, but they are allowed. It's also depending on what sort of text they use for their master's thesis. So we try to slowly introduce these different options that they have for doing translation. And now we are reworking our curricula, sort of fine-tuning, because what our translation technology teachers have discovered is that students are very illiterate with their mobile phones and less skilled with computers. They don't find the shift button, they don't know how to save a file. So and it's not because Hungary is an underdeveloped country, I have to say that we do have technology, but because they are so used to straight away getting answers, like writing into ChatGPT and straight away there's an answer, and they don't know how to use technology. And if we try to introduce MemoQ to them straight away, they freak out, they don't know what to do. And so now we are introducing a subject, basic computer skills, for the first semester. And at the same time, we are going to introduce subjects for language development, because that's the feedback we get, that one, they want more technology, two, they want more language development. So that's what we are also introducing into the curriculum. And instead of revision skills, now we're going to have quality assurance methods, where we are going to be teaching them not just post-editing, but whatever comes our way in the future, what we have to do, including technology in these methods as well. So we are trying to keep up, but we find it very important to keep our students thinking about translation and to know what translation is about, what the text is about, and to be able to find the problems when there are problems.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, though a bit contradictory, that we have to get old school in order to keep pace with the latest technology. Yeah. So I guess we have the same experience here at our university. Would you like to add something? Mm-hmm.
Add something to this. So obviously, I don't have much idea about the teaching methods, but what we see, we do get trainees for 5 months, twice a year, and they are usually trained translators already, and we are mentoring them. So just introducing them different types of texts, and what the conclusion we have arrived is that now we do not allow them to use machine translation, neural machine translation at the beginning. They do use memories, because that would be just unimaginable in our context. But what we have seen, that if you don't use neural machine translation, you need to understand the text to a certain extent. And after that, we also would like to leave them time to start using neural machine translation. It's just 5 months, so it's not a long time span. But we have found that if they, at the beginning, need to get used to the kind of text that we work with and find a solution without something ready-made offered by the neural machine translation memory or AI or whatever, they will provide us with better translations at the end of their traineeship. And also the thing is, but I think it's very important, is that they need to know the basics of the profession without any technology, because the thing with AI is, and even with neural machine translation, that it flows so well, and AI is a people pleaser. Or if I put it a bit less nicely, a professional liar. So if you do not know, if you do not have a very solid basic knowledge, it will trick you very, very easily. It happens to seasoned translators as well when we first started to use AI. So it's not just the students and not just the young people, but you have to have a very good understanding of the text. So that's why I think I was very happy to hear that you are still concentrating on the basics and then adding. But at the same time, it is also important to have a first experience of working with neural machine translation and AI, so that they see that they shouldn't trust technology blindly.
Okay, Patricia, you wanted to add something.
Yes. So I used to be a translator before. I work in a technical university, but I cannot teach computer science. What I teach is professional communication, so to say, how to communicate research results, how to write papers, how to write technical documents. So we used to ask students for research proposal. So they used to, to write. They used to write. They don't write anymore. They ask ChatGPT. So now we need to change, to modify the whole subject to introduce ChatGPT or to introduce other kinds of. We allowed them to use, because it doesn't make sense to forbid them using this tool. But so now we are teaching how to use this tool. So the whole subject. The focus of the subject has changed and has been moved to the direction. So, okay, if we are using it anyway, let's try to use it correctly. Because we asked a research proposal, and they gave us, you know these outputs of GPT, lists of bullet points. With stars, so to markup language, all the documents were the same, lists of bullet points with bold words in bold. And he was like, okay, let's try we need to introduce these tools. And now we are trying to encourage them to use other kind of tools. So there are tools for research as well, such as EELISA and mirror things. So not everything is about GPT. So our experience is we need to embrace it and teach them how to use it properly, at least, because they are going to use it anyway. So.
Yes, Edina?
Just would like to add just one thought which I did not mention a second ago, is that we also tell them that there might be contracts or there might be texts where they will be told that they are not allowed to use technology, AI, or whatever, maybe even situations when they are only given a dictionary, a printed dictionary, and they have to keep to that, because if they don't adhere to what's in the contract, there will be trouble. So already in the training, when we ask them, we teach them responsibility, that if you're told you're not allowed to use the tools, then there will be consequences. But we'll teach you how and when to use the tools. So just trust us that we're going to be teaching you. Obviously, there will be the odd student who will not obey and do whatever he likes. We can't really do anything about that. But we try to teach them with this some responsibility as well, that they can't just do whatever they like in the industry in situations where there might be sensitive text that they will be working with, or sensitive situations, and that they have to learn this, and this is our responsibility, the training institution, to teach them that this is a responsibility that they need to keep in mind.
Yeah, I guess it is something really important to incorporate in our curricula. Is it also in yours, actually, in Zurich? Do you have it? Though you're not a translator, trainer institution, but other students may need it also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, or I say it, if you would ignore it, it would be the biggest elephant in the room that there is. If you don't use elephant, it would be a mammoth, right? We just can't ignore the presence of machine translation and AI, which means. So I did the program for the university I'm working now from 2019 to 22. So it was before AI, or before the large language model hype, but after the machine translation hype. So we, from the beginning on, integrated machine translation in our assignments, because if we're honest, if you're a student and running a tight schedule and you have an assignment for translation, well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to use DeepL. So I guess for us at least, our approach is we want to teach them the literacy to use the machine translation, to use sort of reflection and transparency, like to teach them strategies of using machine translation and justifying those strategies, rather than trying to create a sort of a context maybe where there's just, for us, at least in our experience, isn't as realistic or isn't as common for what they're going to encounter in their professional experience afterwards. We also, it was talked before about this in our in the presentation before. We changed our name from Institute of Translation Interpreting to Institute of Multilingual Communication, because historically translation and interpreting were the two paths you would take if you studied at our faculty. But I think, at least in our experience, the fields or the professions where people go is much broader now. And frankly speaking, also PR-wise, if there's Swiss newspapers that are asking us if translation is going to die and your name is Institute of Translation, guess what? The image you're sort of projecting outside is just, you know, always defensive. So I guess we, at least in our position, we are sort of forced, but also willing to embrace the presence of large language models and to teach our students how to leverage these new possibilities to become good professionals.
Yes, we all try to survive, I guess, as training institutions, yes, because we are really quite high on the list of endangered species or endangered professions. So that's a common notion about translators. We hope that the representative of the language service industry does not believe that, though we were given some food for thought on what to believe in and what the best case scenario could be. But indeed, changing our attitude and maybe the skill set of our students might be a solution. We've heard that adaptability might be one of the key new skills. Christian, what do you think, based on the newcomers maybe in your office, what do we need to teach? Is there anything that they do not really know that they are lacking? Is it really a good idea to go back to basics, or would it be a bit more beneficial for them to spend more time with technology? What's your impression?
Well, I absolutely feel what you said about teaching basic computer skills, because I think that the newer generations, and it's not their fault, they have been presented with technology that is too self-explanatory or too easy to use. I'm fortunate enough to have grown up in the MS-DOS era, moving from MS-DOS to Windows to the newer versions of Windows and everything in between. So I basically understand how a file system is built up. If your first point of contact with technology is a smartphone, which tries to hide the file system from you, then you won't be able to save your translation on your hard drive and send it to your project manager. And this is something that happens quite often with new translators. So basically we use a lot of CAT tools. We don't really have any other choice, and they also help a lot with the translations. And when we get to things like CAT tool interoperability, like the translator only has MemoQ, but we work in Trados, then they have to import the files, they have to export the files, they have to deliver the correct format, and most of the time with new translators, this is like a 20-30 minute coaching session done in Teams when they deliver the first project, and we face that it's not working, we cannot work with the files they deliver. And this is not their fault, this is the product of the age we are in right now. So if translator training can also shed some light on on the basic IT skills, that's great. And I also think that they have to learn about doing post-editing, because in the industry nowadays human translation is more and more rare. So most of our orders are based on post-editing, and I don't want to say if it's a good thing or a bad thing. This is just the reality. So they have to learn to do post-editing efficiently. I'm sure about that. And I also think that they will have to learn about how large language models work, because they will be inevitable in the future. Or maybe they will collapse and we won't be able to access them unless we pay like $5,000 every month. but I think that won't be a reality. And people who want to work with languages will have to be able to work with the language technology, and the new frontier is large language models. So everything from the basics to the newest technology.
And we have 2 years for that.
I'd like to point out that somehow we are translated, or linguists, as you said, not translating, the linguists are presented that we are worth less, we earn less, but it seems to me that we need to know more and more. And I'd like to call your attention to this fact that our expertise should be valued more in numbers, maybe as well, because we need to know more, the students need to know more than before. And this is something very important to be aware of.
And it's quite interesting that it's, for example, in literary translation, where you have to be most creative and cannot really use AI, there you earn the least in the most creative industry. Okay?
If I can, I would like to extend. I think it's also maybe a thing about like PR, how you represent yourself. Like I think traditionally the linguists, or at least in our experience, were sort of very defensive or very sort of an invisible sort of profession, or very much made small. But I think it's also a way of how we present ourselves as linguists in today's world, and our value that we bring to the profession or to the world, and how we can contribute to the society in what we do. And I think because the computer scientists, we heard it before, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, they're making claims that are, you know, ridiculous at times, just to generate more investment, more money. And I think that's something we need to learn from them, is that we also have to be very sort of proud of what we do and sort of show what we can do and what benefits that we bring as humans, you know, which sounds a bit ridiculous, but I think that's just the world we live in right now. So I think it's also I guess a responsibility that we have to give our students the skills to present themselves and to make themselves like, create profiles that make them also viable for the market, I suppose.
Not to apologize for being a translator,
Absolutely.
but to be proud of being a translator. Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. What about your students in Madrid? Would they need extra skills?
They are computer engineers, and they have to do this course of the basic technical skills of. I mean, the reality is that for us it's difficult to evaluate nowadays our students. These LLMs program better than us. So you have to imagine that all the translations that you perform, or the things that are public available on internet that the LLMs have trained and know, our resources are more. All the things that we have been putting on internet through all of the years of coding, programming, our codes are public. Most of them are in GitHub, and you know if Stack Overflow, all the resources, all the questions, they are public available. So the code that they perform are better than the one that I can do myself, I mean, as a programmer. But how can I can motivate some student to perform this, or to try to think that you have to learn how to program or how to code a better way. In fact, this is a problem because LLMs have the code that they produce. They have a lot of security problems, because they are from the past. Everything that they have learned, LLMs, are from the past, and the things are evolving. And if you find a security break in this code, you can you can perform. You are going to create the same code with this problem again and again. So the idea is that I try to teach them that they need to know how to code. And in fact, the companies that have rejected the idea of, I don't want new senior programmers, I can code with artificial intelligence, they have a lot of problems. So these kind of companies, technological ones, are discovering that artificial intelligence is not the solution, it's an improvement. And here the idea must be that is here to improve your results, to get better results further in less time. But doesn't mean that you don't need humans in the loop. So this is mostly the idea that I try to teach them in the university.
I guess that's a great punchline, that we need humans, and we need to teach human values and ethics and being reliable, responsible. Okay, did you want to say something?
Well, I can say
Okay, I just wanted to open this last round of looking ahead a bit, so maybe sharing your views on the future of translation. Maybe first of all on the future of the translation industry and translation offices. Will there be offices like the way they exist now within 10 or 15 years? What do you think?
15 years is a lot of time. I wouldn't go there. But I'm sure that there will be language professionals working in 15 years as well. As I've already mentioned, I believe that we are in the middle of a hype cycle. I think this will die down, and the language industry will normalize a bit. So of course there will be damages and casualties, I guess. But things will return back to normal, and we'll be able to keep working. That's what I hope, and that's what I see at the moment. As for a longer future, as you also mentioned, that linguists have to know more and more things. So simply being able to translate won't be enough in the future. We already see that they have to know how to handle all the different types of computer-assisted translation tools, because every year there's a new one. But of course the principles are the same, so if you know how to handle one, then you know how to handle all of them. And there will be LLMs, and I think that they will have to move into content management more. So I can kind of see a future for individual linguists to be able to perform as a small office in and of themselves, and be able to service end clients, and be able to maybe take on the content management for a small company or even a bigger company, and use all the tools that are available to them, and also do DTP or maybe even social media management. So I believe that linguists will have to branch out, and we as companies will also have to adapt somehow, because as you mentioned, selling translation is really, really hard, because translation is a necessary evil for corporations, not something they see value in. Maybe if you can tell them how they can get into new markets and generate additional revenue, then it can be translated for them. But basically it is something that is forced upon them by regulations and by necessity. So you have to be able to make a good value proposition to the clients that they understand, and that most probably won't be that, look, I can translate your texts. It most probably will be something like, I can take care of this language for you. And the translation may be generating text from the basics, or using LLMs, or just editing, curating. If we are thinking about 15 years, there will be some excitement, I believe.
I guess DGT is in a more fortunate situation, because you really don't need to defend your existence. And the very basic value of the EU is multilingualism, isn't it? How do you see your future?
Well, you just said necessary evil. In DGT we call it legal obligation. You might know that we to a proposal to be adopted and the political decision-making process to be able to continue, we have to have it translated into all official languages of the Union. So we do work within constraints. We have budgetary constraints. We have the constraints of confidentiality, which we have mentioned a lot. And we do have time constraints as well, very serious time constraints, because we are part of a process. You just cannot say that, okay, sorry, I can't keep the deadline, because then I would need 2 more days to fine-tune my translation and to provide you with a better flowing text, because then it's not fit for purpose anymore. Your purpose is also allowing decision-making in the European institutions to go forward and not to block anything. So yeah, we do have constraints, but obviously we are in a somewhat protected position in the sense of that we are a legal obligation. As to what skills will be needed, I think there will be a whole lot of, so open-mindedness will be necessary, and taking lifelong learning seriously will be very necessary. And translators who would say that, look, I'm a philologist, I'm very good at languages, I'm very good at cultural background, cultural knowledge, but I don't want to know about computers, those are machines. That won't work. We have to, and if there's a future, I would say that there's a future, because this is true that there are less and less in-house translators in the European institutions, at least at the Commission, but we still give work to human translators, because one branch of reducing our in-house workload and staff is relying on technology and finding new ways how to use technology developments, and another branch is outsourcing. And in outsourcing, there are still human translators working, and this is very important. It is also emphasized all the time by DGT that the human will need to stay in the loop. It will need to, as long as there are humans involved in drafting our texts and legal proposals, and then there are humans involved in using those texts, there will be humans involved in translation as well. Another question is that today, to translate thousands of pages, you need less human working hours, but you have more and more pages and content to be translated, and as we could hear, there are apparently less people using this profession. So I would say that if someone has a good knowledge of the basics, is ready to learn and ready to adapt, and ready to not look at technology and AI as an enemy, but rather as a companion and as part of our toolbox, then I think there will be a future. And I do think that AI won't be the solution to everyone. It will be one of our tools. What we have to know very well is what tools we have, and we have to have a kind of a strategy in our head, what tools we will use for a certain task. And basically, so I don't think that everything has finished and there's no need for human translators anymore. But yes, we will need to adapt and learn a lot.
I guess you might be the last man standing in our industry, so DGT. But the question is whether you will have new, young, enthusiastic translators, because to be honest, there are less and less students who would like to become translators. So let me ask Edina, how do you see the future of translator training, which I guess is maybe not so rosy?
In 15 years' time, I'll be retiring around that time, inspired by a colleague to make this comment. I'd like to say something clever, but we really don't know, I think. And I'm not even sure if this hype is going to finish. There might be another hype after that, and that seems to be our nature nowadays, hype after hype. If one hype is over, we'll look for the next one, and or the next one will come. And the industry will be changing, and training will have to change with the industry, and we need to keep in touch to be able to give new professionals that you need. But we don't know what will be needed in 15 years' time. And we know that thousands of years ago, they worked with a rock and a chisel, and they were happy to get paper and pen. And then some of us saw the change from typewriters to computers, and this will go on. So we don't know what will come in 15 years' time. We'll keep training for what is needed, but I think until that future comes, we should be courageous enough to say what is good and professional, and we embrace it and it's good, and what is not, we should point out. And research is our friend in this. We should be researching constantly what is happening, giving feedback to the industry as well. Another reason why we need to keep in touch, to be doing research that you need, that can provide answers and can point out faults. And we should be, just be brave and say what's not okay, and not to go down with that, and just keep doing what is worthy of professionals who are aware, adaptable, resilient, able to renew their practices and be able to do their jobs to high level. And it's true that there might be less of us who do this, and those who cannot keep up will fall by the wayside. That happens. But also we need to reach out for young people and tell them that there is still this work going on, because translation, interpreting works in the background often, and they are not even aware. And the question came up whether it's worth going to the high schools to make ourselves visible when they can only come in at master's level. But I think, yes, we need to show already young people that this actually happens and it can be done professionally. So that's what I think. So I can't say what will happen in 15 years' time.
Yeah, but I guess raising awareness and cooperation is something really essential. And then maybe cooperation is something that we humans can do still a bit better than machines, hopefully. Our time is getting up. In case you would really like to say something, you can, but I would like to give the chance to the audience to ask questions. Okay.
Something very shortly, because I forgot to mention. It's just a reflection to what Christian had said about linguists needing to kind of reposition themselves. That's what DGT is doing, actually, because apart from providing translation services, they are developing a lot of AI tools for drafters and the so-called policy DJs, or political DJs in general. And this is some kind of a repositioning within the institution. So the need is, yes, we are probably the last lucky ones, but the need is still there, and we need to go with the wave of change as well. So if you're interested, if you go on look up AI-based services and DGT, you will see that there's a lot of things which are not directly related to translation, but to content creation, like e-briefing and things like this. So if you have time, just check that.
Okay, so in the remaining few minutes, have you got any questions on one of our panelists or more? Okay, I give my mic to you.
It's going to be about quantum computation. Do you have any idea of how it's going to be implemented? Because it is a upcoming subject. I've seen many fields, navigation, robotics, use quantum computation. What do you think about maybe QNLPs and other quantum?
But still, quantum computation is still something that this is something that is still real, or is been trying to be researched, but it's nothing that have came up specifically to the real world, for instance, for breaking securities and so, because they claim that with quantum computing, security is going to be break down, and still we have security at the same point that we started. So I think this is something that is going to be long term, in fact, for natural language processing. So this is not the first quantum computers could be interesting, I think, at this moment for things about this kind of blockchains or securities or whatever, cryptograph and representation of byte representation of the computers, but large language models, their basics, and they're going to be, it's hard to know, but for instance, they still need training data. So the foundation is still human. The training corpus is still human. So this is something that is not going to be so breaking down. To have quantum computations in this case of large language model could be faster, but or a new dimension can be performed, but it's not maybe the correct target for this field, I think, right now.
Thank you for your answer.
Anybody else? Yep.
So I have a question to both of you. You mentioned that currently in the industry, neural machine translation is what they are doing in the name of LLMs. And you meant that if we want to proceed or progress in this field, we need to go past the machine translation. So I want to understand from the point of translators, what do you mean by going beyond machine translation? Like, what is the expectation?
The thing I meant is basically the approach that was also presented by Márton, that right now when we only prompt ChatGPT to translate something from X to Y, then basically it works the same way as a neural machine translation model. But if we can add translation memories, term bases, context, if we can get past the segment level and go to a paragraph level, or maybe the whole text level, or even adding the reference files as co-text or context, then we can move ahead with the technology and we can get to a better machine translation quality, which would be easier for the translators to post-edit. And so then we would reach another productivity gain, which would make it okay to do more translation at the same time frame. Or if you want to approach it differently, it would be okay to source translation cheaper, because the translators would be able to produce more. And of course, this works the best when most of the productivity gain is with the translator, because the translator gains the most extra, well, I'm from the business side, so money. And everyone else in the chain from the translator also has the opportunity to benefit from the technological leap. Right now, we don't have the added productivity benefit, and that is what needs to change.
Yes, so you mentioned that it might be a Swiss Army knife kind of solution that you're expecting. So I guess that's also possible by like changing the parameters of the models nowadays. For example, you can tune the model according to what you want, just varying the parameters. You can use that for a specific purpose, I guess. I do not know how far that is in the industry right now, but from what I have seen so far.
Yes, and this comes back to the handcrafted versus the highly industrialized way that I mentioned earlier. That if you have a specific project and if you have the time and resources to fine-tune the model, you will receive a better output than if you just use the generic one. But if you have to do a lot of projects in a small time frame, then will you have the time and resources to fine-tune the model for each one of them? Who will do the fine-tuning? Can we use systems? So is the machine able to fine-tune itself or another model so that the output is better? Maybe that is something that we will see in the future. And I don't have enough experience with the models themselves, but that would be something interesting to look into.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, I will not ask Balázs to tell his opinion. In case you would like to, obviously you can, because you've been nodding several times. I've seen you. Okay, thank you very much for staying